So that quote is the great corrupt edifice of Christianity still managed to make room for the spirit of its founder. And that is by Jordan Peterson reflecting on the insight of Dostoevsky. So, Rob, what are you trying to explain in this chapter?
Yeah, so the quote is a way of sort of an allusion to the same point of that while you might recognize this all these overarching faults, in any amount that you want to name, in the case that Jordan Peterson's talking about, there's this illusion or this case made for that despite all of that, uh, the presence of Christ in this case is uh, still there and worth mentioning and sort of at least not people might not agree, well, does it make up for it or whatever, but at least has something to say on that side as well. And so um, there's a similar case that I'm hopefully making in the realms of evaluating things for knowledge or the realm of epistemology. So this chapter is bringing up a very specific point. We've talked about epistemology already in part three here, and that was sort of the overview. And this is just a specific case, and it's really about part three is about sort of cleaning up things and tying off loose ends, and this one's really just addressing a continual intellectual hangup of when you're someone, hopefully you're someone who, if you've come along, you're at least much more open to the Christian doctrine. And if you're coming along with us, you're probably fairly intellectually oriented. Well, you're going to run into many Christians who are not super intellectually oriented. And a common hang up that many intellectuals have is to get frustrated by that, look down on people, look down on the whole religion. And I think that that is not an appropriate reaction, and that this chapter is an intellectual argument as to why the what intellectual purity argument is not actually a good criticism. So a little bit meta there, but the point is to make a case that the basic reality of faith, the basic reality of um, harmony with the truth of your life, with the significance of your life, the purpose in your life, is something that is ubiquitous, intrinsic, inescapable. And therefore, you don't actually have to deduce your way to it.
Hmm.
You you already have it and you just sort of step into it, and it doesn't actually matter the way in which you step into the proper orientation, proper fundamental orientation with your life. And so I say in this chapter, in this specific case, just talking about that proper fundamental orientation, at least just in this case, the idea of intellectual purity does not apply.
Yeah, I read it the first time. Why don't you go ahead and
All right. So this is from Jordan Peterson reflecting on the insight of Dostoevsky. The great corrupt edifice of Christianity still managed to make room for the spirit of its founder. So he's talking about this situation that Dostoevsky puts forward during the Inquisition when there's sort of this horrible draconian regime and they're doing bad things and they kind of know they're doing bad things, at least in the story. And Christ himself shows up and they dismiss Christ. And he's just focused on a particular symbolic piece of that story. But the point is, despite all the Inquisition, despite all the bad stuff, Christ was there and they had this ambivalent interaction with him. Um, and in the story, like he kisses them, offering some forgiveness, and they leave the door open for him. So it's like he's, despite the horribleness of how the church is functioning, Christ still works within the church. That's sort of the message. And Jordan Peterson saying, like, yes, there's all this corruption, but Christ is still there within it. And so I think analogously, like, yes, there's an intellectual quagmire and there's a bunch of whatever, uh, silly and stupid readings of Christianity. There's a bunch of abuses of the intellectual side of Christianity, along with the non-intellectual side, but whatever. There's all these misuses, there's all these things that would cause you to question and to doubt. That's all true. But there's still the reality of God that underlies it all. And so, despite all the misgivings that are totally understandable and that to some degree we should have, because we should learn to um, not follow the abusive charismatic leader, and we should learn to properly embody the spirit of forgiveness and love. So, the Christianity still exists and Christ still works through it despite all of the abuses of it. Um, and I think the spirit of that quote is what I'm going for in this chapter, just applied to the realm of knowledge and intellect.
Yeah. It's like underneath that like you said that intellectual quagmire is is the like there's a rose within the thorns, it's like it's in there. It's like that there's an ember still burning
Yes, exactly.
within.